is up, everyone? Mike Johnston here, and you can watch my interview and way, way more drummers' interview on kindbeatsdrums.com. Check it out. The only thing I would have to say is that I apologize that I couldn't find a smaller t-shirt. Like, I couldn't find any children's t-shirts, so I apologize to your viewers. I'm sure they're used to seeing me in skin-tight clothing. This one's like barely a shrunken medium.
You didn't paint that on?
No, this is, you can see right here, there's some slack. That's definitely not my MO, so I felt kind of bad. So I apologize to your viewing audience that I didn't bring the full spandex today.
That's quite all right, man. That's quite all right. I think they want the skills. They're not worried about the fashion, you know.
Hey, by the way, before we get overly started, man, it's a pleasure to meet you, man. I've been stalking you forever on MySpace. You know, I used to watch all your original MySpace videos when you first started putting stuff up, and I was like, who is this guy that's incorporating all these, like, percussive sounds into, like, fat grooves, you know? And I used to be, you know, I used to check out all your stuff. I mean, I still do, but I mean, it's been a long time that I've been following you, so this is kind of a treat for me, man.
No, man, same here, dude. I mean, I've seen you on there for years now, and to me, it's a trip that, you know, and when I wrote to you, that when you told me that you had been following my stuff, I mean, that it kind of flipped me out a bit, you know. It's and I know Jacqueline actually had said the same thing, that she had met you, I think, at NAMM, and you guys were talking, and you had mentioned that you watched some of her videos, and she was like, "What?" You know, because I think a lot of people out there, you know, they don't realize that, you know, you're a normal guy just like everyone else, and sometimes people see musicians that they look up to as, like, you know, beyond personable people and beyond approach, and I think it's just really cool that you actually, you know, that you're out there looking at all these people, and you're not just, you know, putting up videos and being like, look at me, but you're really genuinely interested in other people out there and watching other drummers.
Definitely. I mean, I think that's actually part of what made things kind of work for me, is that the other people that were watching me got the sense that I was one of them, and it's like, well, I am. Like, the reason why I started doing YouTube videos is because I was on YouTube looking for videos. You know, I wanted to learn that new Vinny lick, or I wanted to learn this Dave Weckl chop, and I was searching for videos, and I couldn't really find. It was kind of like if the explanation was great, the quality was horrible,
right.
And if the quality was great, then the explanation was horrible, and I was just like, man, like, someone's got to, like, do this right from top to bottom, like good audio, good video, and explain it, you know, correct. And so I ended up just breaking down my favorite licks that I was trying to learn, you know, and I was like, well, hey, man, I'm working on this right now. Maybe you want to work on it too. But yeah, I mean, I watch your stuff. I watch Jacqueline's stuff. I watch Kobus' stuff. I watch Jimmy Kadesh. I watch a million people who I don't know their name, but
right.
You know, I'm a fan of all that stuff, and I think that's kind of like what you're saying. You know, sometimes we wish that Jojo Mayer or Dave Weckl would admit, like, dude, did you ever look up to anybody?
Right.
Because we get the vibe that they're like, no, I just woke up and I was awesome.
Yeah.
Really? Like, you didn't have to practice or anything? You never, like, look, you know, and it's like, and we know that's not the case, but it's kind of almost the image that's given off because they're of a generation, you know, before us where they're not so used to social media. They're not used to sharing their, you know, their personal life on the internet like we are.
Right.
You know, so yeah, it's I think for a lot of young drummers, it's kind of nice for them to hear, like, dude, you watched my stuff? It's like, heck yeah, I watched your stuff. I practiced it all night, man. Like, I love your stuff. You know?
Yeah, that's a trip. You know, especially for drummers, you know, up and coming drummers and people that are learning. That's so inspirational to them. You know, that people need that. You know, I think they need more encouragement from people that they look up to, and that's why I think it's really awesome now that in this YouTube era, we've been able to connect and create a community of drummers, helping each other out and trying to learn, instead of trying to, like, stump each other and be like, well, you're never going to know how I did that. I'm not going to tell you how I did that lick. You know, it's completely different now. It's like, look how I did that lick. You could do it too.
Exactly. And especially if you get, you know, the right person doing it. You know, my vibe for me personally is I definitely don't look at myself as a drummer at all. I look at myself more as an explainer. So my thing is, like, well, you guys out there are the drummers. I'm the explainer. So how about I give this to you, and let's see where you can take it, because, you know, you're probably more into the drumming side of it than I am. I'm more into, like, watching it and breaking it down so I can explain it to somebody else. That's where I get my thrill, and then someone else gets their thrill from actually playing the stuff. So it's like, all right, well, here it is, man. Like, here's the blueprint. Go do something with it, you know?
Right.
So it seems to be working.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. And like I said, I'm glad that we have people out there like you that are so passionate about breaking it down, and you do it so well. And that's the key. Like you said, we didn't have anybody doing it from top to bottom, where everything was so thorough and well explained. And you know, I have to commend you for that, man. It's awesome to have that happening. You know.
Thanks.
Um, so I just wanted to basically, you know, I have like I don't know, about 10 or so questions that I kind of wanted to throw at you, and so, you know, the first one is actually kind of what we were just discussing now, you know, how we wish someone like, say, JoJo or Vinny would tell us who they looked up to. Who were some of your favorite drummers when you were growing up? And then who are some of your favorite drummers now?
Growing up, I think the first drummer that came into my life, like, you know, I did what every kid does, which is I just like bands and they happen to have a drummer. So if I was into Poison, Ricky Rocket was the man. If I was into, you know, Guns N' Roses, then whoever was playing for them at the time was the man. But I think the first drummer that came into my life would definitely be Phil Collins. You know, it was somebody where I just marveled over the choices he made. Not as much. I didn't like sit there and go, oh, this guy's. You know, I didn't do the bad side of YouTube thing, like Phil Collins will beat up Buddy Rich. I didn't do that. You know, it was, you know, I still don't understand that. Like,
drummer beef.
My brother's faster than Travis Barker. Like, rad. Like, I don't understand that. That's just like saying I like water. Like, cool, yeah, right on, next. So, you know, I think Phil Collins was the first guy that I just would watch his choices, and I was like, man, like, it's not that I couldn't do that on the kit. I just wouldn't have thought to do it in the first place, you know? So he would play these great ballads, kind of like, you know, his pop love songs. And he'd build and build and build and build, and then they'd go to the chorus, and he'd hit the crash with no bass drum. And I was like,
what's that about?
Who the heck does that? Like, what is that? Like, but it worked so good for the song, and now I can steal it from him, but I'm only doing it because he did it first, you know? And so it was like, well, yeah, I could have done that, but I wasn't mature enough to think of it. So Phil Collins, in the beginning, first record, and I do mean record, I ever got from my father, who had no musical talent but loved music so much. He was really stoked that I was into music. He gave me Spectrum by Billy Cobham.
Oh, nice.
And he, you know, said, if you can play one song on this album, I'll buy you a new drum set. So I literally spent every minute of every day. What did I have? I had a Jugs percussion. So just think about being 8 years old and your bass drum head says Jugs, and, you know, just assume that I spent a lot of time in trash cans in school. And so I was just a dork to the next level. And so I studied that, you know, Billy Cobham record, Spectrum, like nonstop. Obviously, there's a great track on there in 7/8, so I learned how to play Odd Times from that. And this is all when I was a little tiny kid. So I think Billy Cobham and Phil Collins were my two biggest inspirations. And then growing up, definitely, I learned about our masters, Steve Gadd, Vinny Colaiuta, Dave Weckl, and then some of the newer masters. You know, then I kind of just stayed on that wave. I never really stopped paying attention. So then it was Virgil Donati and Horacio Hernandez and Ignacio Baroa, and then Jojo Mayer, and then, you know, more recently Benny Greb, and then a little bit before Benny, you know, Johnny Rabb, Marco Miniman, Thomas Lang, all that stuff. And I just tried really hard to let it be okay in my head that people were in categories. So I didn't pit Thomas Lang against Steve Gadd. You know, it's like, well, Steve grooves, you know, and he even makes chops groove. Right. And then Thomas is doing things, he's doing things with a wood block that I can't even do with all my limbs together. So it's like, okay, he's in that category. I'm not pitting him against, you know, Buddy Rich's big band chops. So, and then I think as far as now, favorite drummers, definitely Nathaniel Townsley. I really just love his mix of chops and feel at the same time. That's really important. To me, chops without groove and without feel it's just a waste.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And that's kind of where I'm at actually in my personal playing, where I feel like I've got a lot of chops with no groove and no feel, and I have no problem admitting, like, I'm working on it. You know, I'm not very good at it, and when I see Nathaniel Townsley, I go, yeah, I could do that on the kit, but it doesn't sound like that, you know, and it's like, I'm working on it, you know, I'll just keep trying until I get better. So Nathaniel Townsley, Benny Greb, I just think his sound on the drum set is very unique.
Right.
And it's really rare that we get a drummer where if I hear him playing, no matter whether it's chops, groove, pocket, whatever, I know instantly it's Benny Greb just because of his sound. And I think that's something, knowing him, that's something he goes for, and he achieved it. It's like, dude, I actually know what your kit sounds like. That's crazy. Like, in a time and day where everyone's sampling everything, I know exactly what Benny Grubb's bass drum sounds like. That's cool. We haven't had that for a long time. So I think Nathaniel Townsley and Benny Grubb are the two guys I'm into the most right now, and definitely into the expressiveness. Expressiveness? That's a good word.
We're coining our own terms. It's all good.
Exactly. The expressive nature of Keith Harlock. Like, I just like the flow. It's kind of cool to hear somebody with the jazz flow, the constant improvisation, but it's in straight 16ths, straight 8ths. Like, right. That's like, wow, that's really cool. So those are the guys I'm into right now.
Nice, man. So also, the other thing that I was going to ask you right off the bat is, you practice. Well, you teach kids to practice like crazy. I mean, you have kids on the internet going nuts, practicing all day, loving it, looking forward to the next lesson. And that's something that, that's not the norm a lot of the times with with a lot of students. So how often do you get to practice, considering that you're always putting time aside to help everybody else practice?
I probably still right now do about 4 hours a day. It's chopped up. I wake up really early, like kind of health nut early. I get in about an hour and a half on my practice pad kit that I have at the house. And then I come into work and I do like the online lessons, the live ones, which is the 11 a.m. Pacific Standard. For us we're actually doing that for Europe. That's their evening lesson. So we don't expect a lot of Americans to log on to that one. But we're mainly doing that for Europe, New Zealand, and I think it's the next day in Australia and New Zealand as well. So we do that at 11 a.m. That goes till about noon for me, and then usually right at noon I'll hammer out about another hour of practice. And then I'll start filming stuff, recorded content for either YouTube or for my site, for pre-recorded stuff. Then we do the evening lesson for the America. I almost sound like that beauty pageant chick. The Americas, anyways, I do the America stuff at 6 p.m. our time, and then I squeeze in about another 2 hours once that's over. But the main thing is, when I practice, I'm practicing for myself for sure, but I'm kind of practicing, I'm trying to keep track of how I'm practicing so that I can explain to somebody else when they go, how much should I practice a day? It's like, dude, how good are you? I mean, if you're awesome, practice 5 minutes. Like, I don't know. If you're like me, I'm not natural. There's nothing like Andrew, I'm being honest, there's grooves that you've played that just come out of you naturally that probably would take me 2 to 3 weeks of practicing every day to play. Like, nothing comes natural to me at all. So when I am practicing, I'm trying to study every step that I'm going through so that I can repeat it to somebody else. So when they're struggling at that exact point that I struggled, I can access that memory and go, okay, dude, I know exactly what your body feels like. I know exactly what your limbs feel like. Let me help you through this, rather than just going like, dude, what's the problem? Just do it. It's like, no kid is trying to fail. They can't just do it. If they could, they would. But if they can't, it's up to us as instructors to go backwards on our timeline and figure out, okay, what did my body feel like when I was struggling with this? And then if you were paying attention while you were practicing, like I try to do, then you can go, okay, I know exactly what's happening. Let me give you 2 or 3 metaphors that might help this out. Let me strip this thing down. Let's try 2 limbs at a time instead of 4 limbs. And so then, that seems to be the way that it works, and that's what I'm doing when I'm practicing. So
nice. Well, I was just about to ask you, what is a normal practice session of yours like, but you kind of just broke it down right there. So, I think it's cool too that like you said, you approach it as if you're a student. I
am.
And exactly, and that to me is something a lot of students, they don't realize that you're never done learning. You're always learning and getting better, and it's just it's great to actually have someone like you encouraging these kind of things out there.
I think if I had to start life over, there's only 2 things that I would probably do, and that would be drums or golf, because I want to do something that I'll never get. I literally want to work on this and then die. Like, man, I can't believe my left hand. And that's it.
Broke.
Game over. It's done. That's like cool. I don't want to be 43 and be like, got that, next. My biggest idol in the world is Michael Jordan, just because I love I love people that are the best in the world at what they do. And then it's like, because I can apply that to drums, you know? It's like, okay, how did Steve Jobs sell the new, you know, iPad? That's what I'm going to apply to me putting out this new video lesson. And so when I looked at Michael Jordan, there was a part of me that was sad that it was like, dude, you topped out in your late 30s or mid 30s. You know, it's over. You've got 6 championships. Like, you don't get to work on this anymore. And that it's like I love that drums aren't a sport. There's no shelf life. There's no peak. There's just keep going and then talk to God.
Yeah.
You know? Or somebody else, depending on your lifestyle.
Whoever it is or whatever it is, it's up there.
Yeah, talk to Hare Krishna or talk to, you know, whatever, Buddha. That's fine. But I mean that's kind of it. And I love that about drums. So you know, back to your original question about the practice. The main thing for me is I would say 10% of it is pad and just kind of hand stuff to be warm. Maybe another 15% of it would be jamming to music and kind of enjoying. You know, a lot of times if I'm playing the music, I'm sure people would be shocked at my playlist. It's like Tempted by Squeeze, and I just go the whole time because it's like I dig that song, you know, or whatever by Genesis, you know, and then 75% of my practice is what I call actual practice because the rest was playing. You know, practicing is to me working on something you currently struggle with.
Correct.
So I'm always very conscious. I actually write down the day before what I want to practice. Like, what do I currently struggle with and what do I want to achieve tomorrow? Whether it's independence or groove or feel. It doesn't, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have walked by my practice room and heard, like, me playing right kick, right kick, right kick at that tempo going, like, I could have sworn he was, like, endorsed. And, like, yeah, well, I suck at this, man. So what am I going to do? Like, only do it when no one's around? I got to work this out, you know?
Right. So I read an interview with you once, and you mentioned that you, no matter where you go, you often try to get a lesson in with a local teacher or whoever it is. And you stated that, you know, just before that you're always learning and that, you know, we're always students. Who are some drummers that you recently or even presently study with, and what is it that you work on when you're with them?
Well, my current teacher is an author of a bunch of books on polyrhythms. His name's Pete Magadini, and I study with him in the Bay Area. And it's off and on based off how busy my schedule is and then how busy his schedule is because he does a lot of touring and a lot of clinics and stuff. But Pete, I would consider to be my teacher still. You know, it's kind of, I talk to him about everything that's going on in my life, whether it be endorsements or, you know, hey, I want to play for this company. How do I go about it? You know, and, you know, that kind of stuff. And then obviously the drums. As far as what we work on, you know, if it's a random lesson with a random person, I usually ask them, what are you working on right now? And I just kind of, it's almost like I sit with them and work it out with them, you know, like I kind of feel like, dude, you know, I don't know. I just enjoy that stuff. I enjoy more than anything watching somebody struggle with something, and then I get to be there for the light bulb moment. So even though I'm paying for the lesson, you know, what I enjoy is watching them go like, I can't, and then it just like all of a sudden this calm comes over them and they're playing it and I'm there for that moment. It's like, dude, here's my $30 or whatever. Like, I'm stoked, you know. But with Pete, and that's the other reason why I encourage everyone to take lessons, whether it be online or in person, whatever. I really enjoy the fact that I pay a lot for my lessons, and that money changes everything. If I went to hang out with Pete, because we're friends now, and if I went to hang out with him, it'd be all smiles and, Mike, you're doing so great. Oh, Pete, love your chops. But as soon as money's on the table, he's got a job to do, and his job mainly is to be honest. And that's where he's a great instructor as far as he kind of sits back, watches me play, and goes like, he just identifies all my weaknesses right away. So we work on that, and then he's extremely studied in all of the world beat stuff.
Right.
So he'll really help me with that, you know, because I kind of feel like online a lot of times I have to do with what I call the Casio keyboard grooves, which it's like if I'm teaching a bossa nova, I have to do the one that's on the Casio keyboard, and like,
right.
you know, you hit the button and there's the bossa nova, and because it's like, well, I don't know where everyone is at in their Brazilian studies. So, but when I'm with Pete, we get to really get into it, and he's like, all right, today we're gonna learn the affoché, and I'm like, I don't even know how to spell that. Like,
those are the
is there
best
an X
ones
in there? Or like, what the heck's the apogee? You know, and so that stuff's really cool. So I'm really, really interested in world grooves. And then right now, the one thing that I work on with everyone I study with, because like I said, I mean, I even do that in Sacramento, my hometown. Like, I just sign up for a lesson. But the one thing that I work on the most with people is, for myself, is flow. I'm really methodical, so everything I play is very predetermined, and I want to get out of that. So it's always like this never-ending quest for me of how does it just flow out of my limbs? Because when people hear what they think is me flowing around the kit, what they're missing out on is that I've spent so much time practicing that I've got these 128 notes worth of material fully memorized that I'm moving around the kit. So, I start off with a 16-note pattern that I memorized, then add another 16 notes to give me 32, and then I add another 32 notes to give me a 64-note pattern, and then I double that, and I get 128 notes worth of memorized lick that I'm going, and I'm just flowing it all over the kit, and everybody's like, dude, you're just flowing, and I'm like, I'm not flowing, I have that whole thing written out, so I would like my drumming to flow out of me more without any thinking, so that's what I'm working on right now.
Right on, man. So one other thing, I know that you do tons of touring for clinics and teaching, right?
Yep.
But I know that for a while you were actually touring with bands.
Yeah.
And then you came to the realization that what you really wanted to do was help others and show others things. What bands were you out there with? Were you playing with any bands that are like notable as like a hired gun kind of thing, or were you just on the road with notable bands? Or
one, congrats to you for doing your homework, man. Like,
yeah, I tried,
you know more
man.
about me than I do. I mean, my band. I think my musical experience in bands is a really, really good lesson for a lot of young musicians out there, which is, in my opinion, the worst band I was ever in got, a multi-million-dollar record deal, and the best band that I was ever in with great songs, I thought every song was a hit single, we got nothing. Like, played at, bars to 4 people, and I'm going like, dude, what is the deal? This band, great. And so the band that I did tour with, was never big. It was just big enough to be opening for big bands. We had a major label deal with Hollywood Records. We were called Simon Says, and it was just, whatever was before the screamo scene. Like, I guess we would call it new metal. I call it Rage Against the Corn Tones. It's a mix of all that stuff, and I don't know, there's a little rappy here, and there's a little screamy there, and a little, every riff is jig-jig-jig-corn, jig-jig-jig-corn, and so I was in one of those bands, and then, we played with Korn and toured with Limp Bizkit and Deftones and all that kind of stuff, and the funny thing is the bands opening for us at the time were the bands that eventually became big, Trapped, Papa Roach, Chevelle, all that, and and it was just kind of one of those things where we were lucky enough to play some of those really big European festival tours, and you get, because they put so many bands together, you get to play to like maybe 80,000 people, 100,000 people. It's just massive, and it had nothing to do with my band at all. We just happened to be on those festivals, and we'd be playing to 100,000 people, and all I could think about was explaining, this lick to Taylor Hawkins as soon as I got off the stage, because the Foo Fighters were on the show, and I was like, okay, as soon as I'm done, I'm going to grab Taylor Hawkins and Abe from the Deftones and John Otto from Limp Bizkit. I'm going to take them on my tour bus. I'm going to show them this new idea that I had. And I was like, what the heck's going on? Like, I'm completely missing out on this experience that most people would die to have, just because all I can think about is explaining something to someone else. So that was kind of the eureka moment of like, I should be helping someone else get in this chair right here, because this is not for me,
Right.
So.
No, it's admirable, you know what I mean, to be able to actually to be where everyone else wants to be, and then and then be able to say it's not for everyone, and everyone doesn't have to have that goal of becoming a rock star.
Sure.
You could be a successful drummer in so many other ways.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is that, like, I don't want to give too many trade secrets away, but I was in that chair. I was paying for all my gear, even through endorsements. I had endorsements with DW and Peisty and Aquarian and stuff, but my level of endorsement is way higher now than it was then because, so it's almost like I left that lifestyle that maybe some people would call the rock star lifestyle, but I'm further ahead in the drumming community now than I was back then. So you really never know. I mean, the only way you're going to be successful is if you follow your heart. And my heart was just saying, like, dude, this isn't your life, man. Like, I mean, not to go on a tangent, but I'm a pretty clean cat. Like I don't drink, I don't do drugs. I'd rather be with my practice pad and a thing of Fig Newtons and some Gatorade than at a strip club and stuff. So it's kind of like, well, this lifestyle isn't really for me. But I can see how many people would die to do this. So let me get back to a place, which at the time it was tough ego-wise, but I just went back to my local music store and started teaching students, like straight off of like, it was Limp Bizkit, Stained, and my band, Simon Says. I came off of that tour and went to a local music store to teach, 10 students a week. And it was like, and I was still happier, but then it's like, well, then I'll build it. And I got up to like a little under 90 students, like 87 students a week there. And I just kept doing that. And then eventually the internet thing kind of happened and it changed my whole life,
Yeah, changed the world, I think.
Yeah, no doubt.
So what have you found to be the most difficult thing to teach students, or at least, I don't want to say beginner students, but because I don't want to limit it to just one type, but overall, I mean, have you found anything to be difficult to explain?
Yeah, I mean, I think groove, because everything else I can put down on paper. I can just say, even the craziest polyrhythm, I can split up a polyrhythm into a graph that shows them, yes, this is difficult, but here's where it mathematically works out, and I can explain it. Where with groove, it's kind of like, I've had so many musical directors in situations I've been in just say, like, can you just, like, make it feel better? It's like, what? Like, what the heck does that mean? Can I make it feel better? Like, that doesn't help, bro. Like, I'd love to. Like, I don't have a feel better knob on this thing. Let me, there we go. Does that work for you? Like, so, feel is one of those things that it took me a long time to kind of help students turn their ears on, try to show them, okay, why don't you play a basic rock beat? And they would do it, and I'd put on Steve Jordan doing it, and I'm like, do you hear the difference? Like, he's playing the same notes you are, but it sounds so much, it just grooves so much harder. And so groove has been hard to teach. One thing I have been able to teach is perceived feel. So when somebody says, I need this thing to push, I've found a whole system on, I can teach you how to push, I can teach you how to, lay back, I can teach you how to kind of sit in the pocket. It's kind of like, well, let me teach you how to handle the things that are going to come your way from a musical director, because they're not going to use drum terms. They're going to say, hey, I just need you to get more on top of the beat. Mm-hmm. They don't mean speed up at all. Tempo is tempo. What they mean is you need to sonically make it seem like we're pushing forward. And so, I've found just through my studies of R&B drummers that all of that is in the hi-hat. And, if I play at a certain tempo, if I'm accenting the quarter notes, it's going to feel slower than if I accent all the eighth notes because I'm accenting half as many notes. So, cat, chit, cat, chit, cat. It's going to sound slower than chit, chit, cat, chit, 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 cat, chit, 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 cat. So it's kind of like, all right, how do I give this musical director what he's looking for in his ear to satisfy the musical situation, rather than, it's kind of hard when somebody says, man, I just need to drive. You just immediately think, well, then I'll just speed up.
Right.
And then they turn around, they're like, no, not that. I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do? So groove has been tough, and I'm trying to kind of slowly figure out ways to teach it, for sure.
Right on. Do you play any other percussion instruments besides the kit? No? No?
I mean, hand drums. I played hand drums with filter for a while, and, so conga, but only hand drums, definitely not finger drums. I can't play tabla at all, but I can, I studied percussion growing up, so I studied with a symphonic percussionist, so I learned, obviously the proper way to play triangle and tambourine, and timpani was about as melodic as I ever got. I never learned marimba or vibes or the Glock or anything, but I was obviously in school music, so I was always around it, and just somehow I I was like, well, if I'm really good on the snare drum, they'll never make me go near that stupid marimba, so we should be all good. And it was only stupid because I couldn't do it. Like that's the same thing. Like jazz is stupid. Why? Well, because I suck at it. Okay. And so, but yeah, I can play hand drums, and I studied hand drum percussions for conga, djembe, and bongo, but I can't play any tabla or anything like that.
No, but tabla is not exactly the most easily mastered instrument at all, man. By any means.
I would love to learn tabla more for the phrasing than the technique. I'd like to learn phrasing for sure.
So you recently released some sticks and an educational book for, I think it was like linear drumming, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that. Explain exactly what's unique about the sticks and things like that.
The stick thing has been kind of weird. I don't know how much you or your audience knows, but signature products just don't sell. They never have, and the reason why is drummers are artists themselves. So even a young drummer wants to be his own artist. So he or she isn't like that likely to pick up a thing that has somebody else's name on it. And so we weren't expecting anything from the sticks other than just the fact that they'd be out there. Actually, you can even look at Sabian to see they put out the entire line of Dave Weckl cymbals. And then about less than a year after that, they started having Dave sign the underside of the bell, and and they changed the name to the Evolution series. And then they started selling like hotcakes because everybody's like, oh, I love the cymbals. I just don't want somebody else's name on my product. So I wasn't expecting anything out of the sticks. Pretty much what happened was Vader said, well, we definitely see what you're doing in the drumming community. We want to give you your own stick. I kind of thought they meant my own stick for me. That's it. Like, not like they weren't going to sell it, because that happens a lot, Just like, okay, well, we have this artist. We'll give him a stick that fits him perfectly just for him. So they pretty much what they do is they send you a box of every stick they make, and then they just say, pick your favorite grip, so thickness, your favorite grip, your favorite length, your favorite taper, and your favorite tip, and then tell us what those are, and we'll start making you prototypes. So they did. Everything was cool. I ended up picking a stick that was right in between a 5A and a 5B as far as grip. 5A was too thin for me, 5B was too thick. We developed the whole thing, got it done, and then they were like, we're going to sell this thing. And the problem in my mind was I play maple sticks, and if you don't know a lot about maple, then you might not know that they break really easy. Right. And I was so scared that people would buy my stick in maple, break it on the third day, and be like, Mike Johnston sucks and Vader's lame. I was like, no, dude, it's maple. You like Slipknot. You shouldn't have bought my maple stick.
Yeah.
So you bought the wrong stick. And so they were like, no, don't worry, we're going to put out in both, which was crazy. I'm like, I'm nobody, and you're going to put out two versions of my stick? Like, that's incredible. All right, so they did. They put it out, and all we got was a link to Musician's Friend, and right away it kind of outsold all the signature sticks on Musician's Friend in the first month. So I got a call from the head of Musician's Friend. He's like, on a Saturday, and I'm like, hi, sir. And he was like, I just want to let you know, like, your stick outsold Travis Barker, Neil Peart, everybody.
There you go.
And I'm like,
congratulations on that.
About? And I literally thought, did my mom use her credit card? Like, I kind of was thinking, like, she might have ordered 1,000 pairs. Like, my mom's pretty supportive of my drumming. So, but yeah, so that went on. And then a little while later, at the NAMM show, they kind of gave me the news that it was the #1 selling stick in the entire Vader catalog for like a couple months running, and they were like, you're beating out our 7A and our 5A, which is unreal. So,
man.
Yeah, it was kind of nuts. And so I thought, you know what, man, this is really cool. This really shows the power of the internet, and it shows the power of building trust and being honest. Everyone that bought my stick knew exactly what they were getting because I gave them a video on YouTube about what it is, what it feels like, what type of music you should use it for. So really you end up with a lot of satisfied customers because they got the proper information,
Right.
So that was cool with the stick. And so right now it's still right now the #1 selling stick in Vader's entire catalog. And it outsold the first 5A and 7A for the first 3 months that it was out. So kind of crazy. So anyways, that was that. And then the book is linear drumming, and it's just a collection of linear patterns, that I enjoy to play. And 16th notes is a chapter, 16th note triplets, 32nd notes, and grooves. And it's just a collection of the lessons that I was giving my students at the time. It's like I had all these individual patterns, and I thought, I'll just put it in a book. I didn't expect it to like kind of sell what it sold, and so I kind of feel bad that I didn't write it better. There's not an ounce of text in the entire book. It's just notes.
Really?
Like, not 1 ounce of text. I think that the only text says chapter 1, and then it's like, good luck. I think on chapter 2 it says, welcome to 16th note triplets. It should say, I hope you can count them, punk. Like, it's...
Taunting the reader.
I didn't expect... it's... I was talking to the editor of Modern Drummer the other day, and I was asking him, like, hey, I don't know what sales are for books. Is this good? And I kind of told him what it had sold, and he's like, that is insane for the year. Congratulations. I was like, dude, that was last month.
Wow.
And it's self-published, so I don't have any deal with... I've never wanted a deal because I just don't need one, right now. I think I'd like one eventually. I'd like to be in music stores next to the people that I look up to. All of my idols are Jim Chapin and Freddie Gruber and, Ted Reed. And I look at, Syncopation and go like, oh, he's the man,
Yeah.
So, I'd like to be published eventually. But right now, because of the internet, I have worldwide distribution through self-publishing. So it's almost like, it's just not needed,
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, and so the book's doing great, and I'm actually going to rewrite it. Not rewrite it, but I'm going to add text to it and, maybe explain something.
Oh, man. Well, that's all. Congratulations on all the success on the book and the success. I had no idea that they were taking off. That's hotcakes, man, right there.
It's kind of crazy, but thanks for giving me 5 full minutes to brag about myself. That felt really good.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. We all need that in life.
Yeah, we usually don't do it on the internet to a bunch of people. That's cool.
But so the next thing I want to know is, are there any drummers, or who are some drummers out there that you would like to work with? Have you ever done like a dual drummer or drum and a percussion type thing? Or
yeah, I just spent a week last summer with Benny Greb. We hosted a drum camp together here at my place, and that was a dream come true. He was definitely somebody that I was, less than a year ago getting autographs from. So that was cool. I really like to do something with somebody completely detached from my field, maybe like a Bill Bruford, somebody that I'm not overly studied on, but I know his legendary status, but I really don't know much about him. It's like that would be really fun for me. I really want to work with Will Kennedy from the Yellow Jackets, and I think we're going to do that. And
that's
then
nice.
A guy that I'm trying to get something going with. Well, actually, do you know who Yael Biz is?
I know the name, actually, but I haven't actually heard any playing, so I can't say that I'm familiar. She's
a monster, and she has her own DVD out. Her and I are doing something together in a little bit, but I'm really trying to get something going with this guy, Tobias Ralph. He's a New York cat, and he's kind of like a JoJo Mayer type guy. Does a lot of drum and bass stuff, but he also he tours with Tricky, with Lauryn Hill. He has these big R&B gigs, but he's like this tall, kind of white dude that just is like the nicest person ever, but with insane chops. So I'd like to work with those people on the drum set. And then as far as percussionists, I would love at some point to work with Michael Spiro. And I really feel like my Latin chops, even though I've played in a ton of Latin gigs, I'm always playing by myself as far as just a drum set player.
Right.
And I really wish I knew the role of the drum set player based off the percussionist. I wish, like when I hear congas and stuff, if it's a legit, Cuban percussionist, I really don't hear what I should be doing on the kit.
Right.
And they do. And I'd like to study more with somebody that could, those are my favorite type of drum lessons, where it's from another instrument and they're telling me what they wish the drummer was doing, because I feel like I have the facility to do it, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. So, to me, sometimes when somebody's playing like some wah wah co stuff on the congas, it really just sounds like they're hitting them. And I wish I could hear, like, okay, I hear everything. I hear the tempo. I hear everything that's going on. So I'd like to work with somebody like Michael Spiro, because I think he does, I watch him play with Ignacio Baroa, and they do such a great job together, for sure.
Awesome. Since you traveled so much with the teaching, have you noticed a difference um, in students from different regions? Like, for instance, they say that over in Europe, players are a lot more technique based, things like that. Have you noticed anything like that in your travels, or?
Yeah, and it definitely doesn't show up in the drumming as much as in the attitude towards drumming. You know, Americans are good and Americans are bad, and Europeans are good and Europeans are bad, as far as their skill set, because it's all based off how long they've played.
Right.
But definitely the American drummer is a little more community-driven, and that's not better or worse. I think it's just they just see the whole gospel shed session thing, and they're exposed to it more. When I started teaching Europeans for like our international drum camps, I was shocked that none of them had ever played with another drummer at the same time.
Wow.
And I'd be like, let's trade some fours, and they would just stare at me. And these are great drummers, and I'm like, have you never played with another drummer? And they're like, why would I play with another drummer? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it's the best thing ever. Like, you have to go to your buddy's house and be jealous of his bass drum pedal, and you make a deal with your mom that if you practice 4 hours a day, she'll buy you that, that bass drum pedal or whatever. Like, that's the best kind of incentive ever is being, like, in a healthy way, jealous of your friend drummers, like, gosh, he's fast. So I noticed that the Americans had done that more than the Europeans hadn't, but then I also noticed the Europeans had a much, much higher degree of efficiency on the drums, as far as they would practice the same thing, for a very long period of time and take notes on how they were doing and things like that, where I was like, whoa, like, that's not quite the way we do it here, like, and I learned a lot. I hate to keep bringing it up, but I actually learned a lot of that from Benny Greb when he was here. I would tell him, like, yeah, man, after you left last night, I practiced for like 3 hours. And he's like, let me see your log. I'm like,
your log? Oh, my God.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're kidding, right? And he's like, well, you wrote it down, didn't you? And I'm like, why would I write it down? It was a whole bunch of awesome back there, like, And he's like, well, how do you know if you got better? And I'm like, okay, you're rad. I suck. I got it. Thank you. And so I learned a lot about efficiency from him and from the other European, even the kids that were coming around and the places I was visiting. The other thing I learned from doing the clinic tours is it seems like the U.S. is getting a little bit better, or the world, because of the internet. We're getting a little bit better about understanding what greatness is. I remember when I was younger, before the internet, and I would meet drummers from really, really small towns, and they were the best in their town, and they just had this attitude of like, dude, if you come to Akron, Ohio, you'll hear about me. And it's like, and then I would hear them play, and I'm like, well, here in California, we call you a third grader. So it's like easy on the attitude. Like, if you go to Guitar Center, there will be some 7-year-old there that's going to hand you your lunch. So there's no reason to have the attitude. But that's all they were exposed to. How would they know? They didn't know what was going on. Where now it seems like people really, no matter where they live, no matter how small their town is, Benny Greb was the only drummer in his town, in his village that he grew up in. So, wow. He still understood how important it was to research our masters. Who is Dennis Chambers? Who's Dave Weckl? Who's Buddy Rich? Who's Vinny and Steve Gadd and all that. And it's like that's who we're looking at. Those are the guys, So you don't compare yourself to your buddy down the street. It's like you look up to the gods of our instrument, and it's like, all right, let's get going. We got a lot of work to do. So I think I've really noticed how people are starting to understand their status, and they're starting to see it not as suck and good, just as, well, he's here and I'm climbing the ladder and I'm really far away, but at least I'm getting better every day, and that's what you should be doing,
Yeah. No. So yeah, I mean that's the key to all of it, is to be able to, rate yourself, and at the same time not make it a competition, but a learning thing.
I mean, if you're going to compete with yourself. I like I said, I've followed you for a long time, and it's like, when I'm watching you play, I'm not watching you against any other YouTube drummer. I'm watching you against you, and I'm going like, man, compared to the first, video I ever saw of him, this guy's grown so much, and I remember when I used to watch you in the very beginning, all of the creative ideas were there, and the facility needed to get there, because, same with me. My first YouTube video is like, what is up? My God, that's terrible. And it's like, okay, well, it's been a journey. And now when I watch you, it's like, this is, I'm kind of thinking to myself, this is what he had in his head, but
Right.
now he's got the facility to pull it off, and it's starting to sound adult, pro. It's like, okay, this is amazing. So that's a fun journey to be on. Is I'm grading Andrew Kind beats against himself, and it's like, and you're beating yourself every time you play. So I love it.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. So the last two questions that I have are kind of they're not really drum related, but I noticed in one of your videos you had a Vitor Belfort shirt on. Are you a mixed martial arts fan?
I found, okay, here's the problem. I found out online while I was live online doing one of the live lessons that was an MMA thing, and I didn't know that. I literally pick out my shirts at Buckle. That's like our local place that I go to, or buckle.com. And I pick them out based off of the shoulder that's hanging off the rack. Like, I look at it and I go, black, cool. Light blue, I need one of those. I never look at the front. I guarantee I'm about to look down right now and I have no idea what's on my shirt. I just know how it fits. I can't tell what this is.
I think you're praying over a microphone, or...
Okay, right on.
I think.
Now, I don't know if that's religious or anti-religious. I don't know if he's got a microphone in his hand or a goat, and I don't give a crap. Like, so
Goat.
somebody, I was online and somebody's like, dude, right on, like, are you an MMA fan? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, that's an MMA shirt. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. It has a big giant lion head and it says Brazil on it. Like, I don't know, so I'm not an MMA fan. I'm not against it by any means. I'm a huge sports fan. I'm a sports and astronomy fan. Those are my two passions in life besides drumming. But I didn't know that was an MMA shirt. So.
I had to ask because I'm a massive MMA fan. So I was like, is he pulling for Belfort in the last fight? I was like, I gotta know this, man.
Yeah, no, that was not it at all. I'm actually in where I live. The MMA thing is kind of like they're the guys. If you see an MMA sticker or whatever it is, I don't know the lingo, but anything that reminds me of nitro burning funny cars. If I see that on somebody's truck, I know that guy is literally looking to fight right now.
Right, right.
It's like I just kind of stay away from it. Like, if I'm going to fight somebody, I'm fighting them from 30 yards away with pepper spray. Like, I have no limbs that I'm allowed to get hurt. Like, so it's like I need to be far away when this goes down. So,
I feel
but yeah, but I'm definitely not against it whatsoever. I just don't know anything about it.
Okay, and my last question is, you had this video that you put up that was called The Peppermint, and
yes,
everybody was asking you about this lick and everything, right? And I think you weren't even that wasn't even the main focus of your original lesson. I think, right? What I was wondering, more important question: does Mike Johnston hand peppermints out to kids when he sees them in the streets? I have to know. I mean, like. Kids are told not to take candy from strangers, but unless it's Mike Johnston, I would let my kid take candy from Mike Johnston.
Well, because you know that, one, it's going to be a low-calorie peppermint.
There you go, right there.
It might even have some green tea extract just to burn a few extra calories. No, I actually did think about, I was like, I should probably bring peppermints to my clinics, and just hand them out. I wonder if I could get little Mike Johnston peppermints.
Oh, I guarantee you can, man.
You know what? I've actually been shocked that how much attention my lingo gets online. Like, whatever I say, I'm like, dude, I mean, to me, it's a real saying. You can't, we use a cuss word, but I say, you can't pour syrup on crap and call it pancakes.
Right,
and
yep.
That's a real saying, and
straight it is.
Good Gospel Mighty Joe Friday and up, down, turn around, pick a bale of paradiddles and all that kind of stuff. It's like, that's my day. I mean, when I slam my finger in a door, I go, Jean-Claude Van Damme it! Like, that's what happens. And so, to me, when I'm on camera, I'm just being myself, and like, people are like, what's a peppermint? I'm like, like a little peppermint for the kids. Like,
yeah, that's what it was peppermint for the kids. Me and my friend Matt were just like, what the hell is he doing, giving out candy all the time, man?
I kind of think of like, I don't know. I don't know why that comes up, but peppermint for the kids, all that kind of stuff. Growing up at Jurassic Park, like, that's just kind of the way me and my friends talk, and so it is odd. Like, people like. I think that somebody's making fun of me sometimes because I'll see. I'm sure just like you get your email, YouTube comments, And I get about 350 of those every day, and I read every single one of them because mainly I delete cuss words and I delete random negative stuff.
Yeah, same here.
Just like, you suck. It's like, okay, I'm not deleting it because you said I suck. I'm deleting it because that doesn't add anything to the conversation.
It doesn't serve a purpose.
It doesn't at all. If you say, hey, I really liked the way your bass drum sounded in your last video, not feeling this one, I'll leave that up all day because it's like, dude, that's constructive.
Yep.
Thanks, man. I change my sound every single video. I don't know. I've got ADD, so I appreciate that stuff. But when I'm going through those comments, sometimes it'll say will be in huge capital letters and quotes, buttered ass. And I'm like, what? Like, you want a piece of me? You're going to call me buttered ass? And then I go to the video and I'm like, oh, he's saying he thought it was funny when I said buttered ass. Like, okay, now I get it. But in the beginning, it'll be like that, or I'll take you to Jurassic Park, and I'm like, let's do it. Let's go to Jurassic Park.
Oh, people are calling you out.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, damn it. He's saying he liked it when I said that. So I don't, I'm sure it's the same thing with you, Andrew. I think the public, I think most people would find it funny to know that we probably, I don't know about you, but I don't watch my own videos. So
yeah,
yeah, I edit them based off wave files. I know where I stop talking. I fade the next wave file into that one and drag the video clips on top of each other, but I don't watch the videos. So a lot of times when people are making comments about it, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I haven't seen my own videos. I just, it's not something I do. Like, people are always like, at 3 minutes and 20 seconds on the John Legend video, I'm like, what? And I'm telling them, I'm like, dude, you got me confused. I didn't play with John Legend. And they're like, no, you did a song. And I'm like, what are you talking? And they'll literally have to pull it up on their laptop. And I'm like, dude, I'm 24 there. Like, in a decade, Oh, and by the way, for all of you that are watching, I am not the drummer from Nickelback. People keep coming up. Telling you, dude, that crap happens so much. At the NAMM show, I must have signed like 40 autographs as Daniel Adair. Like, people are like, dude, I love you, and like that song that you do. And I was like, this guy thinks I'm in Nickelback. And I guess we have like kind of the same tattoo. And we both aren't very good at doing our hair, so we just go like this. But so I signed so many. I was like, all right, well, I don't care. Like, I don't know how he signs his name, but Daniel Adair. There you go. So just let you guys know, I don't play for Nickelback.
Dude, that's too funny, man. Well, I'm sure that now he knows someone out there is impersonating him out there. Some fake autographs floating around out there somewhere.
Dude, I hate to tell you this about autographs, but some kid started almost crying at NAMM because he asked me to sign my sticks for him that have my signature on them. And I did. I signed it, and he looked at it, and he goes, "You're not Mike Johnston." And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And he's like, "Look at the signature." And I didn't have I was like, dude, that's a font, man. Like, my signature's horrible. I sent my signature to Vader, and they're like, we can't use this. And so I hate to tell you, but my signature is the Jane Austen font. I mean, let's be honest. Get it out there. Go.
We're airing it all out tonight.
Your Windows computer has it. If you have my signature, you can sell it all day. The Jane Austen font.
So, man, I want to thank you so much, man, for taking the time to talk with me and everyone else, obviously. And is there anything that you'd like to say to all your fans and your supporters out there before I let you go?
I think the main thing, guys, honestly, is just that, I am you. I studied the same books you did, and I looked up to the same people you guys did, and the only thing that is different at all, maybe, is the amount of focus I put in to making something happen. Because I really haven't met very many drummers out there that weren't superior to me on the drum set. So it's definitely not my drumming. It's just being focused. So if you put the amount of focus that I put into my business and growing an online community, if you put that into your drumming or into dentistry or whatever, it's going to go really well for you. If you kind of just halfway do it, it's not going to go very well. So I want to thank you guys for everything you've done for me, because you've obviously changed my life and given me a lifelong career. But if you can get anything from what I do, don't get the drumming. I mean, my drumming is what it is, but get the focus, because when you really, really focus on something, you can achieve anything. So.
That's an awesome message to put out there, man, for sure.
Dude, it's a real pleasure to meet you even this way, because, like I said, I've followed you forever, so you're kind of famous to me. If I saw you in person, I'd probably look at your butt, because I've never seen you from in 3 dimensions. Right. So I'd probably say, my God, that's what the back of his head looks like, you know, like. So it's a real pleasure for me to meet you like this, man.
No, awesome. I mean, let's try and do it in person soon, man. You know, next time I'm out in Cali, I'll let you know. And if you're gonna be in New York, you know, by all means, let me know, and we'll get up for sure.
Absolutely, man.
Oh.
What is up, everyone? Mike Johnston here, and you can watch my interview and way more drummers' interview on kindbeatsdrums.com. Check it out.